The big problem in our industry that hasn't been solved yet is in the PMO land anyway. There just isn't enough qualified people in the world. Like
Hmm.
the world has an enormous shortage of qualified project managers.
Hmm.
Enormous, like to the tune of tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
So, the question then becomes is, okay, let's imagine a world where we could suddenly parachute in 1 billion project managers. What would happen? Well, huge amounts of infrastructure would start to get built faster. Just my experience is that culturally, people in the United States, when they see a return on investment that makes sense, they'll just pull the trigger and do more of it.
Hmm.
Whereas in Europe, there's much more governance and steps and
Hmm.
controls and, let's think about this. And you could deliver 1 billion profit to an organization in Europe and they still think about it and govern and wonder and then maybe next budget cycle. Whereas in America, they bite your hand off and be like, let's go.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode. I recently came across this company 4M Analytics, and after taking some time to understand what they do, it felt like the kind of company that ticks all the boxes of great technology in the AEC and public infrastructure space, such as simple technology with instant value and outcomes, a great founding team, a strong reputation across the industry based on conversations we've had with other stakeholders. If you've ever tried putting together utility records, you'll know how painful it is. Outdated PDFs and unreliable conflicting information from 10 different sources. It's slow, messy, and risky. 4M flips that on its head. It's basically Google Maps for above and below ground utilities. You punch in a location and boom, you get reliable utility data you can trust and verify in one easy to use platform. AI does the heavy lifting, but it's backed by real human verification. Big players like Mastech, Kimley Horn, TX. C. and utility owners are already using it to cut down weeks of back and forth, speed up planning, and reduce risk early on so they can build better together. If you're working on infrastructure projects or projects which require super fast, detailed utility records, I would highly recommend checking out 4manalytics.com.
Okay, Greg, welcome to Bricks and Bytes.
Pleasure to be here.
Hey, so you are CEO, you co-founded Nodes and Links. Can you tell us why?
I co-founded Nodes and Links. Oh wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's going back a couple of years. Um, I co-founded Nodes and Links for 3 reasons. One, I saw an opportunity. Two, um, it's an area that I actually really enjoy being in, and I'm really passionate about it. And number three, I didn't think anyone else was going to, I couldn't trust that the current market incumbents were going to do what I believe to be the right thing. So it's one of these things where it's like, okay, well, if no one else is going to mow the grass in the garden, just stop complaining, just go out with the lawnmower and mow the grass.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So maybe in a few words, sentences, like what does Nodes and Links do? What do you guys do?
We provide automation software for construction scheduling, specifically around the PMO, and we've got a very heavy focus on artificial intelligence, just because
What
it's
is
one of
PMO for those who don't know?
the project management office, so the central
Mm-hmm,
project management office,
mm-hmm,
and we do a lot of artificial intelligence, mainly just because it's a fantastic technology for automation of office work. And
mm-hmm.
central PMO activities are mostly document creation, adjustment, analysis, those kinds of things around schedule and risk.
So do you get involved in the project, or does your software get involved in the project at the before it starts, or it is also used during the construction process?
Sometimes before the project starts, the planners need to come up with a proposed schedule of items, but this will be a high level schedule of items. Generally, it will be a level 2 or a level 3. So it'll be about 1 to 2% of the fidelity of the actual construction schedule. That needs to then be analyzed for critical path risk, scenarios, those kinds of things. So they'll deploy our systems on that. However, the majority of the use of our systems is on the ongoing weekly, bi-weekly, fortnightly update and reporting process within the projects, and then the daily understanding of the schedule and what needs to be done next.
Okay, so maybe let's go back a few years, and if you can tell us a little bit about what was the space like in around 2018, how did the project management office conduct their duties at that time, and how has it changed right now?
So it's actually changed to a very large degree. I'm actually going to go back before, if I may, to about 2010, and then we can go from in a couple of steps. So in 2010, and to keep my answer short, I'll narrow it to the scheduling part of the PMO. You have scheduling, cost, contracts, risk, and a couple of other things like procurement. So they'd be using Oracle Primavera P6 or Microsoft Project to do the scheduling and the analysis. To do the scheduling, they'd extract the data into Excel primarily, or they might use a software like Acumen Fuse or Primavera Risk Analysis to do some of the analysis. And then they do PowerPoint presentations. They'd store those PowerPoint presentations on SharePoint or something like that, and they'd be cycled around. In 2018, the only thing that had really changed in that system is that they were using more Power BI than Microsoft Project. They were still extracting, doing analysis, and the back end of Power BI, if you haven't formed a full data lake and data warehouse, etc., is still an Excel spreadsheet. So it's more of just a different medium of presentation. Since 2018, a number of things have changed. The proliferation of Power BI has changed, but three elements. One is automation, which is around things like machine learning and large language models for report writing. The medium of transmission is starting to change. So rather than a 700-page Power BI report or a 700-page PowerPoint report, you can actually have conversations or get reports that are very, very specifically tailored to your focus on a project. I'll go back to the 2018. So I'll say the thing. What's changed since 2018 to now is quite a few things have changed and quite a few things have stayed the same. So the things that have stayed the same is everyone's still using Primavera P6 or Microsoft Project to do fundamental scheduling. They're extracting the data out of those in some way. And then really it's how is the data processed, communicated, and how is the data stored and referenced by other systems has changed dramatically. So there's a large increase in more use of data lakes and data warehouses on the kind of back end. On the more front end, there's more use of cloud-based, more intelligent softwares like nodes and links to pull the information through. And those cloud-based intelligent softwares are really focused around automation and advanced analytics, where you have a lot of automation in things like machine learning or large language models to automatically generate narratives. That gives you the ability to talk directly to people. So rather than having a 700-page Power BI report, you can actually have a very, very tailored 3-page report that's just for you, that just focuses on the things that you care about. And you can send 700 of those out very, very easily with just a few clicks of the button. And then you have things like the more advanced forecasting, machine learning, risk analysis, those kinds of things. Where we do see the trend inevitably going, and this is, this may sound just like software's kind of petering along. Really, the big problem in our industry that hasn't been solved yet is in the PMO land anyway. There just isn't enough qualified people in the world. Like the world has an enormous shortage of qualified project managers. Enormous, like to the tune of tens of millions of people. So, no, the question then becomes is, okay, let's imagine a world where we could suddenly parachute in 1 billion project managers. What would happen? Well, huge amounts of infrastructure would start to get built faster. There'd be other bottlenecks like access to materials, access to specialized skills like welders, pipe fitters, these kinds of things, but that would be an advantage. Okay, well, we can't just suddenly magic 1 billion people that are highly qualified out of thin air. So then it's like, okay, well, what technologies exist to start doing work that could be equivalent in a small like flip of division of labor? It's artificial intelligence. Long story short, what we're really treading towards is the introduction of AI workers into construction, and the AI workers will start in the office. It's the paperwork. So it's, right, if a project is really short 100 people, what work were those 100 people going to do, and how much of that can be automated with a robot? And if you did a little rejigging with the people you have, can you actually get most of that work done? That's really the progression that all of this is following.
Great. Okay. So if it's all about creating this billion or whatever the number is of new product managers, what I'm curious about is it about getting the data faster to people who can action it, or is it about getting these digital agents, product managers who can then action things? Because at the end of the day, construction is a business of outcomes, right? So the information, if it comes quicker, then great, but there is a need to action based on particular set of information for someone. So are we saying that the project managers that you guys will create, will be these agents who will be doing stuff, or am I interpreting it correctly? Or
you're interpreting it correctly in that the agents that do stuff, there's some tweaks on how it gets to do stuff. So we've got some strong beliefs on the strength of contextualized understanding. So humans have to be in the loop, and humans have to be controlling a lot of things and checking outputs and these kinds of things. But to answer your question directly, the answer is it depends. Sometimes getting something faster is a nice to have. It doesn't actually really matter for the delivery of the construction project. Really, at the heart of it, this is just about getting work done. So, for example, contractually, you might have to produce some kind of change report or risk report when a scope change article comes in. Okay, well, that's 20 hours of work. What if it's 2 hours of work? And it's just, how do I just get a lot of work done much cheaper? At the heart of it, this is just economics. How do I get more for less money in some way? Now, construction is an incredibly manual outdoor activity. So really, when we've got to take a sense in this. Someone I greatly admire in the UK who runs a technology founders group actually said to me, "Do you think AI will be the future of construction?" And my answer was 5 out of 10. And I say that because
it depends on the timescales. Yeah.
Well, exactly. It depends on the timescale. The reason why is I said AI will massively automate paperwork. That's really what it will do. And it will massively automate cognitive work. So, for example, progress tracking with images and this kind of thing. It will only start to automate physical work, so like welding, when you have robotics paired with AI that can really go out. Now, that's really future thinking. That's like, I don't know how many years, 20, 30, 40 years in the future. But is that the kind of direction we're heading? Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned two incumbents, I think Primavera, well, at least two, Primavera and Power BI. So are you guys competing, or are you a substitute of the next generation, or your supplements to those?
If we're talking about software supplements, so we don't compete with any of those. So, for example, we've got APIs that pull data out of P6 and pull it out for systems, do a huge amount of automated analysis, reporting, and then can pipe it into Power BI if people wish. But that's actually not how we think about the world. We purely think about the world in terms of how many hours does it take Project X to do their reporting in workload? How do we make that 100 times less? So really what it's about is the automation of the moving parts to do the office work so that one person can get to an answer either 100 times faster, or you just need 100 times less hours to do the work required by the contract.
Tell us a little bit about what type of projects do you target, and what type of customers do you work with?
So we target any kind of any major waterfall projects, generally over $100 million, but there's exceptions to that where you've got portfolios of smaller projects that still need to be planned on those kinds of systems or managed with those kinds of systems. In industry-wise, we're actually, because general contractors span many industries, I couldn't tell you what industries we're not in right now. I know that we're in nuclear, solar, wind, road, rail, utilities, energy, nuclear, defense. I don't think we're in aerospace. I think that might be the only one. We're in mining, oil and gas, and in terms of geography, America, Canada, Brazil, UK, Australia, Africa, like South Africa, and plus some of the African countries across the Mediterranean, Hong Kong, Singapore, Middle East, Oman, Saudi. Like there's quite a lot.
Pretty much everywhere. Okay. And so are these these industries, are these construction projects within these industries, or these are projects? Okay, these are construction projects.
Yeah, so well, it's a mix. Some are, everything is a construction project eventually, but like some are direct construction projects. So like High Speed 2 in the UK, it's about $100 billion project to build a rail line directly on that project. But then we're also directly with the biggest consultants, the household names that you'd know, the biggest GCs, and a number of clients that you would know.
So in 2018, when you were starting, was the AI like a primary core for the business, or that came later, perhaps with the wave of AI? I think 2021 or
no. We were pure AI from the start. I remember in 2019 explaining to some people, I was like, I want you to imagine that you're going to have a butler that's going to do this work that you're sitting here trying to do, writing this risk report, but like it's not a person, it's the computer doing it, and it will talk back to you. And they were like, you're talking rubbish. And I had some idea about, I was like, well, we just price it based on the work done, and there's, we were having those kinds of thoughts. My co-founder Christos, he was a professor of complexity science in the Department of Engineering Mathematics in the UK at Bristol University, specializing in building self-learning algorithms to control and predict major projects. So it was part of the DNA from day one. The big kind of difference between day one and now is that there's much more of a balanced blend of simpler algorithms like deterministic algorithms, just really good software and cloud-based systems and data architecture, and then the application of AI where AI makes the most beneficial sense.
Okay. What's the customer's journey? Tell us a little bit about like how does the onboarding look like? Is it weeks, months, hours? How difficult it is to connect to you?
Normally, well, normally right now it's about a 60-40 split. 60% people call us because
Mhm.
they've used our system on one of their projects, or they've got recommended by someone they know, and 40% is us reaching out. For the ones that are serious and have a use case that we can deploy on, because we're at the moment constrained on capacity.
That's a good position.
It's a very good position to be in. It's incredibly hard to scale properly, like with very high quality.
Mhm.
Like you can scale it by reducing quality, but I don't like doing that. What we do is we'd sit down and understand exactly what they're looking to automate and what they're looking to kind of enhance, and then we just get them on the system immediately. It's about 5 minutes to get them on the system. We'd allow them to upload their data into a private walled area, and then either we'd fly directly to them and handhold their way through it, or we can do it via calls and tell them how to use the system. And because these automations are so fast, it's pretty easy to see if it gets the job done. So, for example, if you wanted to do a full change analysis as a client on a GC schedule to see what's changed and what's impacted the critical path and the risk curves, you would have a process for that, and you'd know how long it takes you. And then when you go onto the system and you can do that kind of analysis in 7 minutes, and it's produced a fully written report that's 52 pages long with all of the graphs in. Yeah, you have to go away and read the report and check the numbers, but
Yeah.
you know,
You don't have
within
to
an
create it.
afternoon, within an afternoon, you're like, that, most people are like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. How do you, so it's all about the collapse of time, which is then money. What are some like KPIs perhaps or statistics that you can tell us? How are you saving on these costs of labor and ultimately dollars or?
So thinking of some American customers, I saw an ROI for an American customer the other week. They had internally calculated after using our system for 2 years that they were averaging $63,000 productivity gains per scheduler per year, and then they were gaining around 10 to 15,000 of productivity gains from non-scheduler roles across the entire project. And that's things like, for example, a site superintendent who needs to know something, and they're like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to walk to the office or get on the phone and call the scheduler, explain it, and do these kinds of things instead of they can just ask an AI and get an answer straight away. They just know these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what's your way of charging customers? Is it per change or per
No, we did
seat?
think about this. We thought about usage, we thought about processing credits because I is expensive. Ultimately, though, we just do what's best for the customers. We either charge just on a project basis, which is, it's just a fixed price for the whole project, unlimited usage, unlimited people, don't worry about anything. We'll just maintain the system. Or it's on a user basis, which is more for the consultants. Those kinds of people where, they're doing many, many projects at a time, maybe like a claims consultant or a delay consultant, those kinds of things. We just say, just pay for the person and just don't worry about the rest of it.
Okay, I think it's fair. And in terms of price per project, is it you taking some percentage of the project value, or how do you assess?
No, I know a lot of people do that, and it just people don't like it. It just creates so much friction in the whole process. So we actually just do it off square footage. We're just like, how big's it, and then we just factor it down. And really, that's just kind of our internally. Like internally, we've just got a fixed price that we charge projects, and then it's just a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on if it's really big or really small. It's actually more for the small projects where, people are doing many, many small projects. We just cut it right down. To like I said, to be honest, the demand is so high that pricing's not an issue.
Great. Okay, you mentioned something very, very interesting, so I wanted to dig into it a little bit. Hard to scale, and hard to scale with a good quality outputs without diluting this quality. Is this because you perhaps, I'm just guessing, I don't know, perhaps there is a little bit of a consultancy model within Notes and Links right now, or there are other reasons? And tell us, tell us how you're dealing with it.
There's zero consultancy in Nodes and Links. We're just a pure tech company.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is that there are an investor, and to be honest, a business owner would love every single thing in their entire business to be 100% scalable with zero marginal cost or productivity disadvantages
Of
on
course.
everything. Because then you could just go from zero to infinity instantaneously. That's not how the way the world works. What I mean by that is that if we're deploying these systems, fundamentally it's just hiring amazing people and just the time and effort it takes to find the best possible people and then make sure that you've trained them up properly. There's just a lead to that, and then you have to integrate them into the organization. You need to make sure the management frameworks are in place, these kinds of things. Now, is it far more scalable than, for example, an equipment company? Of course, because it's software and you can just deploy. But what I mean is, I think our acceptance rate for new hires is about 0.3%.
Oh wow!
It's kind of that. Yeah, we will. I can't remember the stats, but we reviewed something like 15,000 CVs in like the last 18 months, like these kinds of things, and we'll pick X number of people from that to actually go through an interview process.
What skill set do you think it's required with the modern startup within construction tech or within what you do?
Depends on the role. Really
Okay.
depends on the role. I would say that if you're in sales, well, I'd say rather than skill set, I'm going to base it on intelligence or kind of character. So that the 5 sets of intelligence are IQ, which is associated with mathematics and logical thinking. You've got EQ, which is social thinking externally. You've got internal, another IQ, but it's internal reflection. So you're able to do your point. You've got physical intelligence. So like Ronaldo has incredible physical. I can't do what he can do, etc.
Same here.
Yeah. And I can't remember the 5th, but it's not for this. It's like for me in sales, actually, the biggest thing is just immensely high EQ and internal reflection, because you're not trying to deploy technology in projects. You're trying to help people.
Yes.
And to help people, you need to care about people. And to care about people, you need to be able to ask them questions and then be incredibly reflective on yourself on whether or not you're understanding them and being empathetic. So actually, in this regard, like the people who make it to the top of the pile are actually the ones who just ask a million questions, who are genuinely interested in getting to know people and wanting to help them out. And one of the tests for me is they can genuinely say to something, we actually aren't a good fit for you. Like if we moved ahead together, it wouldn't really work out well because of these reasons. But if, X and Y change, do you know what? Call us back because we actually can help you. There's no reason to bullshit in kind of our position, because it's what we found is the customers where we know we can help them, they 10x their spending with us anyway because of how much value we add. So actually, it's more about finding more of those people that can really help than it is trying to just scattergun a market.
So regarding the finding of those people, what is your go-to-market strategy? How do you filter through the environment of ready or not ready customers or semi-ready? How do you do it?
So there's a lot of filters that we do, but fundamentally, it all starts with a discovery call or a question or something like that. People who are recommended come in like a bit higher than, for example, people we've called outreach to, just because if they've been recommended by like a current or former customer or user of ours, and they'll know the use case and fit, so we do that. But then really it's a discovery about what challenges they're facing, and if deploying fundamentally automation and communication technologies actually moves the needle on their project. And that's not hard to find out, because people sometimes will say to me, yeah, we really want to deploy automation technologies. And we're like, cool, let's imagine that we automate all of these things. What's your next decision? What changes on your project? And if they're like, oh, nothing, well, it's just nice to have. Or like, oh, that's good. It's like, you don't need it. It's not like it's not like you're bleeding out and you need to cover the wound. It's just, I'm a bit bored and that's a nice to have. So those would be like, look, it's not a great fit. But if someone's like, I've been trying to hire people, I physically can't. The wages have gone far above what I can afford, but I have to get this done. I'm really struggling. Can you please help me just keep on top of this because I'm drowning? I'm like, absolutely, that. And then that's the kind of people that we'd move ahead with.
Great. So when you speak or your team speaks with construction companies and schedulers, what are their pain points right now? You mentioned the lack of supply of the right workforce. That's one of it. But what are they actually?
There's lots of ripples around that, because it's kind of like, so what? Or a lack of supply doesn't necessarily just mean they can't hire people. There could be a hiring freeze. It could be that it's just not economically viable to get people to do certain things or whatever. Generally, if it's an owner, the owner wants assurance, and the owner wants to be able to understand what's happening in the project to the level where they can have effective conversations with the GC and they're not getting rings run around them. So they can make it a collaborative discussion. That's fundamentally what owners want. Plus, they want to know the risks and when the project's going to finish. So a lot of machine learning and things can come into that kind of point. With general contractors, overall, it's just get work done. Get work done cheaply. So, you do, and actually don't burn people out is a very big one, because they'll have people who, come in on their weekends or work double shifts and just to get reports out. And it's like, I don't really want to be doing that to those people. And then, when it comes to consultants, there's two angles to it. One is digital transformation, which is setting big organizations up for success and has portfolio analytics and things like that in it. But they're actually looking for a technology angle to, so they can go in, write processes, do changes, and then leave structured capability in place. And then the second element is really the client element, because a huge number of consultancies serve client organizations. So it's just a reflection. It's a reflection of that. So, they'll go in and, they'll have, I don't know, bid 20 people. And then they realize that actually to do the maximum amount of work that they need, they might need 80 people. It's like, well, you can't have that. So it's like, okay, well, how can we start to make the most out of the productivity of the people that we have?
As we speak, I'm very curious, what's the Where do you see the trend? Who needs your software the most? Is it on the owner side or on the contractor side, or perhaps on the consultant side? Where do you get most inquiries from?
We get the most inquiries from client organizations.
So they want to
Normally,
know where the projects are going and how they're going, and they can manage it
normally
on
client
their.
organizations, it depends, because you can have very, very skilled clients like Shell or BP,
Mhm.
very, very skilled client organizations. But you can also have very unskilled organizations because they never were a construction. I think construction is the annoying thing they have to go through to get the asset to do the job that they're actually there to
Yeah.
do. It's just an annoyance. In kind of those more situations, they're just trying to manage a project and get through it in the best way possible. They haven't got 130 years of experience doing
Mhm.
it every single day. So they're just looking to kind of break through the fog and understand what's going on.
Oh, great. So it's interesting insight. So they want to, because they don't have the whole set of people who can deal with the problem scheduling, and then they would purchase a software, thanks to which they will be on top of the schedule, etc. So, but on the contractor side, do
Mhm.
you see them investing in the software, or because they have to, or because they have some budgets and they want to explore and better themselves from a product management point of view? Like, what's the main
So
custom?
so so the in terms well the original question was how many of the people who call us, what's the kind of flavor? It's clients. More clients
Yeah.
call us. But if you look at who spends the most money, it's general contractors, and it's just because they're just so vast and they have so many people
Hmm.
and so many projects, and the teams on the projects are so big. Oh, there's just an enormous amount of scale there. Like a client organization might be 20 people, but
Hmm.
a GC might be 1,000 people on the same project, or 2,000 people. That kind of thing. The other thing with GCs um, is they're very, very concerned about risk, because if they've got fixed price contracts or they've got liquidated damages or things like this, they're very concerned about delay, disruption, um, ripple effects, these kinds of things. So they they're much more in the weeds of the actual mechanics of the project and how it gets executed. Like, clients generally want transparency.
Hmm.
GCs generally want management. Like, they want schedule management. Like,
Hmm.
day in, day out, I'm managing this so it's not risky.
Hmm. Okay. Having your software deployed in, I think you said around 30 countries.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that. We lost count a bit ago.
that's fine. And what's your like macro view in terms of like what's happening right now in construction? And where is the most like work coming from?
Um, well, everywhere is building.
Hmm.
Everywhere. We've even got inbounds from Iran and Russia, which we unfortunately had to say no, we can't deal with those.
You
Um,
guys sort other things first, and then we can talk.
yeah, I was like, I don't want to get in the middle of this thing. Uh, Even Israel as well. Even Israel, like loads of them.
Hmm.
Um, what I'm generally seeing is there's an unending amount of construction work.
Hmm.
In almost every single country, even if budgets dip, there's an unending amount of construction work.
Hmm.
And um, in almost every single place, there's too few people.
Too
Like,
few skilled
hiring
people, I guess.
too few skilled people. That's the key thing, skilled
Yeah.
people. And that's really the problem across the board. And, we're not the wonder solution. We're not the golden pill for that, because you're talking about too few electricians, too
Hmm.
few pipe fitters, too few concreting teams, too few suppliers of rivets, like these kinds of things. And just the demand and supply scales are not quite even on that. So I'll give you an example. Quite a number of my friends work on NEOM in Saudi.
Mhm.
And when the original plan was put together to build it, I can't remember, it's like 120 kilometers
150.
long, something like that. There wasn't enough glass in the entirety of the Middle East and Europe
Mhm.
to supply what the project needed on a year-to-year basis.
Mhm.
So they were considering, I believe, creating a forge in the desert and just shoveling sand through.
Mhm.
And it's things like that. Well, it's like, that's just nuts. That's mental.
Mhm.
Amazing, but like
Yeah.
the scale of that. So coming full circle, it's just like, those are the macroscopic problems. Of course, there's micro problems, which is, you know, some projects go over budget, some projects take longer, some projects have quality issues. But that's kind of like well, I could have said the same thing in Egyptian times compared to now. Like
Yeah.
nothing's new about that. But the big picture is the demand and supply isn't quite matched right now.
Mhm. So having that many operating in so many countries, I think. Well, question to you: is it difficult? Is it simple? Is your team here? Well, I'm in the UK. You are now in Zurich. So where is your
Mhm.
team located? How big it is? How do you operate?
So we've got a team of about 50 people, and then we've got partners in a lot of places. Around half is around the Mediterranean. We've got about 10 in America, 10 in the UK, and then the rest is just scattered around different places. Um, we've invested heavily in the UK, in the US, because actually a lot of the inbound is coming from the US,
Mm.
and those projects are the ones that we've actually had the greatest success in delivering the ROI. And
Mhm.
also, it's just culturally, um, the it, just my experience is that culturally, people in the United States, when they see a return on investment that makes sense, they'll just pull the trigger and do more of it.
Mhm.
Whereas in Europe, there's much more governance and steps and
Mm.
controls and, let's think about this. And you could deliver 1 billion profit to an organization in Europe and they still think about it and govern and wonder, and then maybe next budget cycle. Whereas in America, they bite your hand off and be like, let's go.
Yeah, that's a difference. Yeah. Um. Okay. What have I got here? Okay. What's staying on this geography and team a little bit? How do you make sure you manage the business well when having so many countries so many operations in so many countries and team also displaced geographically? Like, what's your secret sauce to the leadership and management?
Um, Very, very good question. Um, I'm not going to be able to answer this fully without writing a book on this. But what I'd say is let's put different countries aside, because it's the systems you can put in place, but fundamentally it's the team that
Mhm.
delivers
Mhm.
with the software. Um, so we'll focus on the team. Managing a remote team is very, very different than managing a team in an office. You have to be far more cognizant of the unspoken interactions and how people feel, and the quality of management being the the creating, the segmentation, the giving, and the measuring of work. So in an office, you could be like, hey, could you look at this? And then I have a quick look. Oh, I don't quite know it. And you're sitting next to each other and you can do that. Whereas if you're remote, you'd be like, I need you to look at this. Can I just take 10 minutes to read through exactly what I'm asking for? And I'm going to give you examples of what good looks like, these
Mhm.
kinds of things. So you have to be very, very cognizant of management competence and um, supporting people in that journey. So I'll give you another example, which is around serendipitous interactions. So when people generally sit near each other, they become friendly or familiar with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that friendly or
Mm-hmm.
familiarness, if they are individuals with very high agency, which means that they're individuals who really want to do a good job and really want to succeed and develop skills, they will generally learn from each other sitting near each other. If you run a fully remote company, you can't do that. So it's how do you engineer situations of serendipity for high agency individuals, these kinds of things. So I think I'm using a lot of complicated words and a lot of very specific terminology here, but I think the key here is if you want to run a really high performance team where people feel cared for and productivity is incredibly high and the team's fully remote, you have to develop a new set of management skills which are very, very focused on thinking about the interactions of people, not just the work to be done, but the nodes and the links. It's how people connect, talk, and on what levels they're doing that and at what frequency they're doing it.
But you're saying this because of the working relationship between these people, and it makes it better, or there is perhaps some non-tangible aspect of like making friends, and that would be important for people. That's why. Okay, so that.
Yeah, of course, it's on a number of things. And by the way, when we don't do everything fully remote. So, for example, making friends is you can only make so much of a friend talking like this. At some point, you just need to meet and have a bit of fun and like bond. We do that because that is actually very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what are other non-obvious things that you learned when running a company that you wouldn't assume
when running a company?
Yeah.
Oh, the big one that I've written in a book I've wrote was that the CEO's job is to prevent failure. Everyone else's job is to maximize success, and they are not the same thing.
That's true.
Like they're very, very different things.
In construction, precision matters. Every budget line, every schedule, every document. But too often, project data is scattered across tools and departments, creating risky silos. That's where ArcDesk comes in. ArcDesk is the all-in-one construction management platform designed to connect your entire project operation, from opportunity through to tender, all the way to handover. With real-time dashboards, cost control, scheduling, procurement, and document management in one place, ArcDesk gives you complete visibility and control. Trusted by contractors, subcontractors, and asset owners worldwide, ArcDesk has powered landmark projects from shopping centers to Europe's tallest buildings. If you're ready to reduce risk, protect your margins, and deliver projects with confidence, discover ArcDesk today and visit arcdesk.com, that's ARCH desk.com, and see how leading firms are building smarter with ArcDesk.
Yeah, I love it actually. From my engineering point of view, when I run my small little business, my goal is to make sure we don't have claims, because if we have claims, then we're just going under. Whereas engineers want to deliver the fastest and the fastest designs, which are compliant. But yeah.
And by the way, what I'm saying there is, I'm not saying limit the upside. That's not what I'm saying, because we're a venture company. The idea is to have enormously disproportionate upside. What I'm saying is remove the downside parts of the equation so you're only left with massive upside, and then have 99% of all your resources geared to having the highest upside you possibly can. So a case in point in this, which is this is an industry where most of our business comes through referrals. Well, we put enormous effort into hiring incredibly emotionally intelligent people who will deliver a fantastic support service around the software that we deliver. And why do we do that? It's so that customers have an incredible experience, because then it leads to more referrals. So that's where you get your virtuous cycle loop. How the downside of that would be, how do you kill that entire virtuous cycle system? Hire terrible people.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly easy to do. I could hire 5 terrible people tomorrow. Just like,
Yeah.
first 5 that message me on LinkedIn, you get a job.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, okay, well, what's the check? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's about being careful on that.
Or the other side could be getting 5-10 customers which are probably not right, and waste your resources on them and not get another.
Customer picking, a salesperson should generally be like, I want to get as many customers as I can. But again, CEO's job is to prevent failure.
Mm-hmm.
Failure can actually fail you from the upside. So it's like, no, let's have criteria around how we choose. And there's only specific ones that we will invest finite company resources in pursuing and supporting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great insight. When did it start like crystallizing in your head? After like how many years? Is it recently or a few years back?
What, that insight? Last year.
Last year, yeah. So it takes a while.
It was actually when I had to write it down.
Yeah.
It really takes a while. It was when I was really trying to write it down, and then it makes you think very deeply about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So here's a gap in my research. What is the book that you wrote?
The book that I've written, it's a bunch of people have got copies of it, but it officially launches in September or something like that. It's called The Physics of Project Acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
So my background is that I'm an astrophysicist that then went into engineering nuclear subs, that then went into project management.
Mm-hmm.
So it started a while ago, and we had this idea of training AI to identify acceleration opportunities in projects. But then we tried to find material to train the AI on, and there was no recipe book. And I'm talking here about mathematical, as in not like try and motivate your team. It's like, no, flip the entire thing on its head. Acceleration is moving a graph.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are all the ways that you can move graphs manipulating the data? How you manipulate the data is a human problem. So if one of them is increased productivity in these specific areas, no idea how to do that. Send someone in there, give them a budget, say make it go faster, and then humans can be very creative. But it's the mathematical part. And long story short, it's a book where I detail out the 8 types of project acceleration that are mathematically based, and then the 33 techniques you can actually use to achieve acceleration in projects, and then boil it down into then exactly what you could do on site to achieve that acceleration. So it's essentially a recipe book.
Who should read it?
You know. So that actually should be read by all the schedulers, and then it's really senior leadership and superintendents and things like this to just understand the concepts in it.
Do the customers get a free copy?
A whole bunch of supporters of Nodes and Links have actually got a copy. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I have to say, credit to Brooke, our head of marketing. She went above and beyond, and it's beautiful. It's A4. It's a full hardback, and it's like the highest grain paper. I am actually genuinely proud of it.
Very good. My schedulers get onto your Amazon or wherever they can find it. Okay, you mentioned that you are venture backed. So I think this year, earlier in February, you received some funding. Yeah, tell us about it. Who did you work on this with, and what was the amount? How are you spending it? Yeah, tell us what you can.
So the total amount was about $18 million. The amount announced was smaller than that, but we structured things after. I can't announce every one, because some I think some marketing announcements are going out soon, and there's an embargo and these kinds of things. But the big leads of that were our lead investor from the last round, which was 2150, which is a fund over in Europe. The new lead was ETF, which is in London, and then you have Sustainable Forward Capital, which is out of Athens and Greece, and then you have Uncorrelated Ventures, which is from the Valley, from Silicon Valley. A wonderful guy called Salil. He really understands engineering and projects and these kinds of things.
So these folks are like specialist investors in construction, or they are more generalist?
No, they know construction, but no, they're more generalist. A number of them have a high sustainability focus because construction is a very big topic for sustainability. But take Christy and the partner from 2150. He was one of the heads of growth of Facebook. So this is just really, really competent deep tech investors who understand developing and deploying technology into organizations.
Where are you planning to spend this capital into? Like, which areas? Is it engineering, sales, or some other areas?
Nope. Well, 100% sales. Engineering is growing very, very slightly, but we've got an incredible engineering team, and they're on an absolute roll right now. But this is purely go to market. Like, we've got such good feedback from customers. Like, I can't say them, but our KPIs are, well to the top of the top quartile, in terms of net dollar retention, churn, average value order, like these kinds of things. So it really is just to go to market, and we're doing 100% of the new hires of that is America. Purely America, because we never actively ever targeted America because we're a British company, we're assigned to Britain. But actually, like 40% of our revenue became American just by inbounds. Like, they were contacting us, and then they were introducing us to, like, clients were introducing us to GCs, and then consultants were introducing us to their US departments and these kinds of things. To the point where it's just so obvious that that's where the focus is.
Okay, how do you see like profitability concept? Like, some people, is it reasonable to think about being profitable at some point at certain circumstances, or that's not your goal? How do you view it?
So there's three kinds of profitability. There's gross profitability. You're always grossly profitable because otherwise there's no underlying unit economics to drive the business. Then there's what I call cash payback, which is, having negative liquidity capital, which is fantastic for powering the business and growing. You should always have negative liquidity capital. And then there's the EBITDA. There's the thing at the end of the day. And really, this just comes down to a balancing equation. I am not a fan of burn and see, like that, as in, let's hire 75,000 people and then, produce some incredible estimates,
see.
And then the whole thing comes. It's like, no. There's a certain movement in the construction industry that you have to do. And it doesn't actually require a tremendous number of people to get a tremendous outcome, so long as the people are highly qualified and your product is amazing and addressing some core points. And long story short, my strategy is always to balance the two. So to invest where it makes total sense, but always to have the ability to switch if it requires.
Have you got any tips for people who are trying or thinking about raising capital within construction technology? What to look out for, what to avoid, anything?
I could write a book on this as well. There's a lot of things I'd say here. If I I'll just make up 3 to 5 bullet points. Number one, qualify investors just like you'd qualify customers, because construction is not fintech, and is not NFTs and crypto. Like the expectation of cycle times is incredibly different, and that factors into how people think about the industry and their expectations. Number two is, do not think that you can deploy capital in a day and see, get 75 salespeople in the next day and then see revenue jump up in the third day. Like, if you're in construction, you're fundamentally selling to enterprise organizations, and there's process that you need to go through in order to achieve success. Number three, I'd say, is raise appropriately. And I say that because I've got friends who own other companies, who raised at enormous valuations because of an AI hype, and now have come crashing down and essentially are considering exiting and these kinds of things, as opposed to just being a little more prudent on variability, which is ironic given the fact that construction is all about unpredictability. Number four is, apart from some absolute superstars, which is, the ETFs, the 2150s, the seed camps, the entrepreneur firsts, these kinds of people, raised in America.
Raised in America?
Yeah.
Why?
Just, and this is just in the numbers, by the way. Like I said, there's some incredible venture capitalists in Europe, but the signal to noise ratio is so much lower in Europe than it is in America. Like in America, if you visit in Silicon Valley, like I've been over, if you visited 20 VCs, 18 will be great. If you visited 20 VCs in London, 3 will be great.
That's very interesting.
And the other ones will just be really private equity houses that are just kind of showing themselves off as a VC, but really are actually just kind of hoping for middle of the road companies to come along.
Got it. Okay, what's the on the point number 3? How do people figure out how much they should be raising? What's the calculation that should be?
Well, it's personal to every single business.
How do you go about it? How do you think about it, like from macro point of view?
So I think about it in 2 ways. Number one is, what capital do I need to achieve the next major milestone of the company? So it's genuinely a thought about what are the milestones and how the mechanics actually deliver. On the flip side, it's also a thought about dilution and control and ownership of the company, not just for founders, but employees and current investors. So, if you need a milestone that needs 200 million, but your pre-money valuation is 20 million, it's not going to, it's just not going to be your company after that point. That's a ridiculous thing to do. Equally, if you're going to do a raise, which is, your pre-money valuation's 100 million, and you're doing a raise of 100K, it's irrelevant to do. There's certain bounds. So generally, you want between something like a 5 and 25% dilution. Like 5s are more when you're in the very high valuation range, like the hundreds of millions or the billions range. 25 when you're more earlier stage. But it's like you're looking for something around that range. So it's about thinking about how you can structure your business plan to achieve meaningful milestones that can land in that kind of range. Because until you earn the right to large sums of capital. You only have the right to bid for small sums of capital.
Love it. Yeah, great. What as we wrap up, what's the vision for Notes and Links? Like how do you see the business, let's say 5 years from now?
So our vision is that we want to really usher in AI workers into the PMO. We want to really deliver that billion more workforce into that system to get work done. Now, ultimately, it's more projects being delivered faster, better, on time, that kind of stuff. But there's so many factors that feed into that we just think about what we can control, and it's like, okay, how much work do we get done? So really, it's just putting all of the things in place to enable large organizations and skilled people to access enterprise grade agentic AI and automations to just massively increase the workload that can, or just massively decrease the effort that they have to do. And I'd consider success that, in 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, people just cannot believe that people used to write reports. Like, blows their mind that they would sit there writing reports. It blows their mind that they would go on Excel and calculate an S-curve. It's just like, why would you do it? It's the equivalent of me saying to you now, the way that we're going to design this is with this ruler and this big table and a big piece of paper doing a drawing. You'd be like, I'm just going to use CAD. Like, that's what I want to get to.
Great. Okay. And I think the last one would be having view on different geographies within construction, how people work and they interact with each other. Do you find that within what you do, it is easy, fairly easy, you have fairly easy access to every single kind of construction culture? So what I mean by that is, in America, is it similar way of doing scheduling that it is in the UK and in Germany?
No, it's all different.
And how do you adapt to it? Because that's the whole.
Oh no, as in it's more the nuance where you actually look behind the data and you really look behind the data. So will a data center schedule in Germany and Israel look generally like a data center schedule in America? Of course it will, because they're building generally the same things and it's generally the same companies, blah blah blah. But the execution of it will be very different. And I'll give you an example. In Israel, people generally won't start a work package until they have everything ready that means that they can execute it. In America, people will start a work package without having everything there just to make progress. And then when they can't make progress anymore, they'll try and go and do something else. Those create different rates of production in schedules and these kinds of things. So it's like you do see these differences all over, and then you've got like the commercial landscape. So you'll see different amounts of change go through like American schedules compared to English schedules because of how the contract and the law is structured to allow certain things to happen. So you do see these differences, but it's just like, it's a difference in taste. Like, fundamentally, people are still building things in generally similar ways. There's just nuances to the culture of how they go about it.
Okay, Greg, thank you very much for this. Where can people find out more about you and Notes and Links?
Well, if people want to find out more about me, I have a podcast similar to yours, but nowhere near as successful, called Beyond Deadlines. I do that with a friend of mine called Micah Peepo, who's the ex-head of scheduling of Google and Intel.
Who should listen to it? Who should listen to it?
So anyone who's interested in scheduling, it's incredibly scheduling focused. So if you're just interested in scheduling, you should listen to that. And it can go anywhere from just an engineer or a project manager who's interested all the way up to really, really detailed planners.
What's the recent cool subject that you discussed within scheduling?
The recent one was actually systems architecture design, which is how you structure your software systems for an entire organization, such that not just schedulers, but project planners, so project managers, commercial managers, everyone can actually can access the information. So it's really about organizational design, which actually can link to everything. The same principles apply to cost, to risk, to engineering, to supply chain. It's like I found that a cool concept to chat about.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Thanks.